Disability is not a bad word. It is okay to say, I'm disabled. It is okay to be disabled and be a Blue Shield employee.
In our case, my son has non-visible disabilities or non-apparent disabilities. It can be really challenging to navigate the world when you don't look any different, but you experience the world differently.
Sports have been a huge part of my life. It was June or July of 2018, I ripped my hamstring tendon off my pelvis. Ended up having surgery to repair it, and during that surgery, I lost all the feeling and function in my leg from the knee down. Not only did I have like a physical trauma, but I also was diagnosed later with PTSD, major depressive disorder, and generalized anxiety disorder.
There's a difference between apparent disabilities and non-apparent disabilities. When people think about disability, they think about people in wheelchairs or someone who is neurodiverse or someone that may have another physical impairment like not being able to see or not being able to hear. There are disabilities beyond what people see on an everyday basis. Those non-apparent disabilities are something that people don't like to share, don't like to talk about, and it's very uncomfortable.
About 35 years, I've been dealing with major depression. It's rarely receded. It's one of those things that I've just dealt with. When I was first diagnosed with it, there was such a stigma to it, and I think that there still is.
One of the things I'm very passionate about is adverse childhood experiences and pediatric trauma. I am an 8 on the scale of adverse childhood experiences. My mom died when I was young. She made Christmas magical, and I was determined to do the same for my children. And I was standing on my staircase and I was looking at the decorations and I was thinking to myself, my mom would be so proud of me. My mom would be so proud of me. And all of a sudden, the room started closing in and I couldn't breathe. And I was on the floor, just bawling. I called my husband at work and he, said, listen, given everything you've been through, I think it's time that you start talking to someone about this. So I did. And I'll never forget it. She said, you have PTSD. I didn't realize that anybody who had a traumatic experience could live with PTSD.
I think it's really important to self-identify and join an ERG. If you're not open and honest with yourself and others, then you're not going to get the support that you probably need.
I'm in Disability Inclusion Alliance, which is the employee resource group that is championing equality and inclusion for people with disabilities, whether that's our colleagues with disabilities or those of us who are caretakers of people with disabilities.
ERGs are communities of support. In the disabled community, what that can translate to sometimes is, hey, I need an accommodation. I need to have this conversation with my boss, and I'm not going to feel less because of it, and I'm not going to feel like I'm asking for something extra or special. It is a requirement for me.
The Disability Inclusion Alliance has really raised the level of awareness as to what ableism is and how pervasive it can be in our society.
As someone with a pain, disorder, like there's some days where I'm just not gonna make it to the office. So I feel really awesome that Blue Shield was able to adapt to that.
When I've talked about battling depression, it has been a little bit of an uncomfortable conversation with my supervisor, but I've never felt unaccepted because of that or ostracized. And sometimes it really helps in conversations if I'm having a difficult time for them to be able to understand the place that I'm coming from.
Hearing other people's stories and telling your own story without judgment helps give a person perspective. I feel like I have a way to speak up at Blue Shield and be heard. And the more I practice identifying myself, I think the better it gets for people who don't think of doing that and who might not have sought treatment even.
One of the main messages I would tell people who are going through those phases of depression is you're not alone, and there are people around you that are very willing to support you.
Since we spend so much of our time at work, I think it's really important that we feel safe and that we feel we belong.
One of the things in terms of mental health, especially in the workplace, is imposter syndrome. Who are you to do this? Who aren't you? You are someone who is strong. You are someone who fooled no one on your way here, and that's why you are exactly where you are. It was with the help of the Disability Inclusion Alliance that I have gotten this far in my healing, and that is an amazing feeling.